They were just going with judges, what they said.
What do you mean?
It means there was no juries. They were just going with judges and what they said. There's no jury. Whatever the judge decides is what goes.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? There's always going to be power. Regardless of whether it's the communists, whether it's the capitalists, whether it's the fascists, they're always, and that's the thing, is that power is a problem, that people don't understand that power is a problem, and not so much, whether you're Democrat or Republican.
I know, that's why it's frustrating to get those stupid arguments with people. Stupid people that think, it matters. But that's why the educational system's so horrible. That way you keep people stupid, and the dumber you are, the less choices you have. The less choices you have, the less, you're able to do what's best for you. And what's best for you usually involves what's not the best for a business interest.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the 40-hour work week is basically slavery. And when you tell people that they're slaves, there's no difference between them right now and slavery, because they're just living hand to mouth. Walmart or whoever's paying them just to live, be able to survive. When you tell them that, they get angry, they get frustrated. All of a sudden, you're not a patriot. All of a sudden, you're questioning the system and not being a good person or whatever. It just kind of sucks, because
but who's
you're
really
trying to
free?
help them.
Who's free in that example?
Well, see, the only person that is free is the person who realizes that they're a slave.
Yep.
I mean, no matter what. I mean, you realize that you're a slave, and what do you do? What do you do when you realize you're a slave? You sabotage the slave master, right? And that's what you have to do. I mean, you have to sabotage the system. Because...
But there's things set up so you get in trouble for that.
Well, yeah,
it's designed for you not to do that,
Of course.
That's why.
Yeah, you're caught sabotaging Walmart or whatever, you get thrown in jail. You're caught stealing, you get thrown in jail. You get caught not showing to work, you're fired, and then all of a sudden you don't even have the pennies that it takes for you to survive. But you tell people that, you remind people of that, of the fact, and all of a sudden you're the bad guy.
In their eyes, but if only if you live in their eyes do you get, frustrated with that. But I know what you're saying.
I mean, but what else are you gonna do? I mean,
well, people have this misperception that in order to believe your life is improved when you believe, the way everybody else does. That's not the case. Just looking for the
classifieds or...
Yeah, I don't know if it's in here now. Yeah, here it is. I know, that's why I never saw eye with, what's her name? It's like that. I mean, you go to these fake churches and believe these falsehoods, listening to propaganda. And you consider yourself an American that way, fine. Being American, doesn't have any meaning whatsoever. This isn't your country.
It has meaning to people who are conned into thinking that patriotism is everything. You know what?
There's no such thing. It's made up.
America needs nihilism. America needs to stop believing in God, stop believing in the established order, stop believing in its stupid culture that we're the
but when
best
you say
on earth.
America, what do you...
It's retarded. I mean, just like the people in America, we need to stop believing all this bullshit. What we need is more nihilism.
But nothing's going to stop it, that's what I'm saying. So people always say, people need to do this and do that, but they're never going to. So whether they need to or not, you're just kind of wasting your breath, as I see it, just because, they're not going to change. People, and that's what I said, you have to change the school system. What's the best way to change a society? Through education. Well, if you're not going to change the education system and it's flawed right now, and there's a lot of ignorant people, and they're not changing it, then there's a reason for that. They want to maintain the ignorance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the person who has all the power, that controls all the politics, do you want people educated? Look at the slaves back when we had institutionalized slavery rather than this type of de facto Walmart slavery. They didn't want slaves to read. So what are they doing now? Instead of telling us that you can't read, they're saying, oh, we're not going to fund the public schools, we're not going to fund higher education, we're not going to fund all these things. But you know what? If you want a good education, go to the military. The military has a good education for you. I mean, in the military, there's no place better than in the military to get your head shot off. I mean, to get an education for when you can, get out of the military, you can have a good job.
See, the military is a good education. That's what being an American's all about. They tell you the way that they want you to do it. They punish you if you don't go along with that. And you go and do what they tell you to do, and you get paid to do it, regardless of who it hurts. And on and on and on.
They pour out.
For a handful of people's interests that have no logic whatsoever. Communism, well, the Cold War, that was a myth. These terrorists, 9/11, that was a myth.
They say that Al Qaeda doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
Do you believe that?
It was made up, and I've heard, it's made up by these stupid white assholes that, if there is a hell, they're going to be burning in it for eternity.
Did you ever watch Zeitgeist Addendum? Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, at your house the other day, Mark.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, I was like, what? We just watched that. I see what you're saying. It's kind of like In Plain Sight, but a different way.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, I mean, there's no way, and that's why I advocate just the opposition of power, any kind of opposition of power. I mean, you need to oppose Walmart. You need to oppose all of these structures that we find ourselves in. It's
but
crazy.
Fragmented opposition means nothing, and that's how you can control people. Unless you have a giant group, which you're not going to be able to form because people don't think like that. You need some kind of Martin Luther King. But what happens to people like that? They get their heads blown off.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm thinking that anybody nowadays who was to rise up and promote any kind of real opposition, they'd get their head blown off. That's why I'm afraid for Obama, because even though he's not a radical, he's probably going to be killed because he's changing things, and they don't want things changed.
But see, he's not really changing things. He's just switching stuff around. That's all that ends up happening. He's undoing stuff that Bush did, and then when he's out, somebody will undo what he did. So there's temporarily, but by the time you get something passed, and by the time it goes into action, and by the time you are able to see those kinds of changes, somebody else is now in power and is going to get rid of that. About the only way to prevent that is patent like the Supreme Court, where they don't have limits. And you can get somebody in there from one persuasion and lock them down.
Yeah, how many Supreme Court justices did Bush appoint?
2.
2? I thought it was more.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 openings.
There was 2 openings. I'm hoping that Obama
He did, but some of them didn't get confirmed.
Yeah.
I mean, Sandra Day O'Connor had to give the election to Bush, even though Gore won, and then promptly leave office after that, so he could then put in who he wanted in there when he didn't even win to begin with. So like all that 9/11 stuff, it's a nice scam. They can say, well, there's nothing's happened since 9/11. That's proof that we protected you. Or the more obvious answer is that there was nothing wrong to begin with, and it was allowed to happen, and who got wealthy in that process.
Or some people created it, and that's the thing. Oh, dude, I left this thing. I keep leaving this thing on for